please.
Thank you, Count Cordia. Minister, I too want to raise the BPFI report, and we know from that report that rents in Ireland are more than 4 times, they've increased by more than 4 times the EU average over the last 12 years. And those figures absolutely lay bare the extent of the crisis in this country. And under your government, the fact is that things are getting worse. We know that rents, house prices and homelessness are all at record levels and are continuing to exponentially grow. Meanwhile, mortgage approvals have hit their lowest level in the past 17 months. And construction in the 3 months to September was down a massive 22% compared to the same period last year. This crisis is having disastrous consequences on every aspect of life in Ireland. To give just one example, we have a teacher recruitment crisis in our schools, in large part because teachers can no longer afford the housing costs in Dublin or in other urban areas. The Social Democrats will be bringing forward a motion on that issue tomorrow, proposing solutions that I hope that the government will adopt. One of those proposals, Minister, is in relation to vacant homes. We've now been waiting for a vacant homes tax to be introduced since it was first mooted by Fine Gael in 2016. That's 6 years ago. A proper vacant homes tax can be the fastest, cheapest and most sustainable means of bringing additional homes into use. Regrettably, the vacant homes tax that your government has finally proposed is so low that it's actually laughable. You have set the rate at just 0.3% of the value of a property. Minister, do you know that house prices are increasing by 10.8%? And that's happened in the past year. If the value of your home will increase by more than 10% if you leave it vacant, how on earth is a tax of 0.3% an incentive to bring it back into use? Let's take an example of a home that is worth €400,000, less than the average price of a Dublin home. Under your government's plans, the vacant homes tax will be charged at a rate of €1,215 per annum for the next year. But the value of the home will increase by €43,200 over the same period. Sitting on it will still earn you almost €42,000, even after you pay the pathetically low level of vacant home tax that you've introduced. So, Minister, can you and your government for once take this housing crisis seriously and implement a measure that will actually make a big difference? You will soon be Minister for Finance, Minister, within the next 2 years, and I'm imploring you to implement a punitive vacant home tax. The Social Democrats have proposed a rate of 10% of the value of the home. Will you urgently review the rate of this tax and raise it to a meaningful level?
Mr. McGrath.
Thank you, Deputy Shortall, for raising this issue. And of course, making better use of existing stock has to be an important part of the overall solution, given the scale of the housing challenge that we face. Because we know that building new homes with the best will in the world takes time. All of the various stages that have to be gone through in terms of planning and procurement and bringing services to land, water, wastewater, and other infrastructure, and so on. And I think we do have an issue in Ireland with the underutilisation of existing stock, including in our towns, our villages, and in our cities. And if you walk around many of our towns and our cities and you look overhead at buildings at night, you don't really see people living there. And that does set us apart from many other European cities. And I think we do have to find ways of making better use of existing stock. Minister O'Brien has brought forward a range of new proposals, including Croí Cónaithe, a special grant for vacant properties, €30,000 and up to €50,000 if the properties are actually derelict. And as you know, he has now extended that beyond towns, into rural areas, and also into cities as well. When it comes to the issue of properties that are fully vacant and the vacant homes tax, that is a very significant intervention by government. It's the first time that such a tax has been imposed. And of course you can argue about the rate, you can argue about the scope, but we utilised the information that has been gathered by the Revenue Commissioners by way of the returns made in respect of the local property tax to construct a new tax and a new intervention with a view to ensuring that as many of those properties as possible come back into use and become available in the market where there is such a shortfall at the moment. When it comes to local authority homes, Minister O'Brien has brought back 5,000 social homes back into use under the Voids programme, so where the state is directly in control through our local authorities of these homes. We have accelerated the reinstatement of those homes to get them back into use, and a further 2,000 are planned for this year as well, and that is particularly important. So through the various instruments that we have, through our local authorities, through the Derelict Sites Act and the Derelict Sites Register, which I think needs further work, because we do have to make sure that where properties are derelict and just left there, I think the penalty has to be very significant to make sure that those are brought back into play. And we do now have the new tax in respect of vacant homes, which I think will play a part in encouraging the owners of those properties to make them available. Having said that, there will always be legitimate reasons why some homes are vacant. We've made changes through the Fair Deal scheme to ensure that properties can be rented out and that the income is not a penalty as such in respect of the financial assessment. So we'll continue to work on that. Look forward to the debate on your motion, and the government will consider any constructive measure that you have or that anyone else in this House has to increase the supply of stock.
Minister, I didn't ask you anything about local authority voids. That's something entirely different. I asked you about the vacant home tax and the fact that there are tens of thousands of homes lying idle at the moment, and the most effective way of increasing the stock of houses available for our young people, many of whom currently have no choice but to go abroad. 2 out of 3 nurses are planning on emigrating. 61% of our primary schools are understaffed, and it's all down to the high cost of housing. Now, Minister, I asked you, on what basis do you think that, a person who can continue to sit on a vacant property and benefit to the tune of 42,000 next year, on what basis do you think that person would be influenced to bring that home into use, to make it available, as a result of a tax of €1,200? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I queried Minister Donoghue on this, and all he could say was, well, it's 3 times the property tax rate. I mean, that is meaningless. Minister, I'm asking you, when you become Minister for Finance in 2 weeks' time, will you undertake to review the level of this tax and introduce a proper vacant homes tax?
Thank you very much, Minister McGrath.
Deputy, I'm conscious that this is a new tax that has just been legislated for in the Finance Bill, and it is set, as you know, at 3 times the property's existing base LPT rate. But as is always the case with a new tax, we will keep the rate under review, and we will see it as if it is having the desired effect, because the whole purpose of this new tax, which the Oireachtas has now legislated for, is to help to bring more stock back into active use. That is what we are all seeking to do in this House, and we have various instruments to do that. Some of it is carrot through the grants that are available to tackle vacancy and dereliction, and some of it is on the taxation side, on the stick side, whether it be derelict sites, whether it be a derelict sites tax, or for the first time ever a new vacant homes tax. The imperative now is to get this up and running, and of course we will monitor the impact of this to see the extent to which it is having a beneficial effect. I think it will have some beneficial effect, but when it comes to the specific rate, we will be keeping that under review.
Minister Deputy Boyd Barrett.